Hello, dear friends. Astronomy, astrology, astronautics, and aeronautics are often sources of very interesting mysteries and news that I try to compile and summarize to give an idea of where things are going over ahead. I have always sensed a mystery in the two satellites of Mars. Opinion piece: Mysterious moons of Mars. The satellites Phobos and Deimos. Theories about their formation. Their strange shape to science. They are believed to have been captured. NASA creates artificial clouds. SpaceX postponed its launch. Several blood moons will be seen this year. A null zone blocks the space station. Digital dollar being studied to contain China. Trump could run for president in 2024. Syrian air defense to respond to missiles over Damascus. Let's start. New theory on the astronomical mystery orbiting Mars. A new scientific study attempts to shed light on the past of two satellites of the red planet, Phobos and Deimos, positing the theory that they may have arisen from the remains of a larger moon that once orbited the solar system's fourth planet. Mars has two small nature satellites called Phobos and Deimos, whose orbits are very close to the planet. They are believed to be two captured asteroids. Both were discovered in 1877 by Asaph Hall. They were named after the two Greek mythological characters that accompanied Ares, Mars in Roman mythology. From the surface of Mars, Deimos, the farthest and smallest, rises in the east like the moon. However, Phobos, larger and closer, moves around the planet faster than its rotation. Mars' two moons, Phobos and Deimos, have puzzled researchers since their discovery in 1877. They are very small. Phobos' diameter of 22 kilometers is 160 times smaller than our moon, and Deimos is even smaller, with a diameter of only 12 kilometers. Our moon is essentially spherical, while the moons of Mars have very irregular potato-like shapes. This led people to suspect that they might in fact be asteroids captured in Mars' gravitational field. The last time that giant rotten potato was the subject of speculation was in March 1989, when the Soviet probe Phobos 2 disappeared after sending back 40 pictures, in some of which a strange shadow was visible. The last image it sent back to base was that of a huge and puzzling elliptical shadow, several kilometers long, on the Martian surface. Some ufologists argue that the disappearance of the Russian spacecraft, whose objective was to study the surface of Phobos, was due to the fact that it would have been destroyed by beings from other worlds because they have a hidden base on the satellite. They would have, of course. The moons of Mars are very strange because they look more like asteroids than our own satellite. Phobos and Deimos were born about 4 billion years ago, 600 million years after the solar system was formed. But their origin is still a mystery. Their irregular shapes, they are not spherical like our moon, and perfectly circular equatorial orbits have puzzled scientists for years. Phobos is a small, irregularly shaped satellite whose average radius is 11 kilometers. It always presents the same face to Mars, due to the tidal anchoring excited by the planet. Its orbit about 6,000 kilometers from the Martian surface, making it the closest satellite in the solar system to its planet. These tidal forces create a deceleration in Phobos, losing orbital speed, which will cause its collision with Mars in about 50 to 100 million years, or its disintegration and formation of a ring around the planet. Deimos, or Terror in Greek, is the smaller and outermost of Mars' two satellites and of the smallest satellites ever named after Deimos, a character from Greek mythology. In synchronous rotation with the planet, it travels a nearly circular orbit, very close to the Martian equatorial plane, in 30.3 hours, a period slightly longer than the rotation of the red planet. Its composition poses serious difficulties for scholars trying to explain its origin. The origin of the moons of Mars remains an open question for the scientific community. It was thought that Phobos and Deimos were actually two asteroids captured by the gravitational forces of Mars, but subsequent studies questioned that if the satellites are asteroids, why are their orbits nearly circular? Computer simulations revealed that they should probably have more irregular orbits according to Spacecom. The origin of the two moons is not well understood. Their low albedo and carbonaceous chondrite composition has been found to be similar to that of asteroids, supporting the capture theory. Phobos' unstable orbit would seem to point to relatively recent capture, but both have circular orbits close to the equator, which is very strange for captured objects, and the required capture dynamics are complex, unless they should be positioned artificially. A new study by a group of scientists led by Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, Zurich planetary science researcher Amir Hossein Bagheri, challenged the idea that Phobos and Deimos formed from a disk of rock and dust that long ago orbited the red planet. To form two bodies of similar size and at a similar distance from the planet would have required a massive disk. Bagheri stated in comments to Spacecom that with such a disk, the formation of a single larger moon is much more likely similar to Earth's moon. The researchers suggest another variant of the development of the events, that both Phobos and Deimos originated from the remains of a shattered moon. The scientists emphasized that while Deimos is gradually moving away from its parent, Phobos continues to spiral toward the red planet. They suggested that it is possible that it may impact Mars or be torn apart by gravitational pull. The full study was published in the journal Nature Astronomy. Bermuda Space Triangle blocks space station computers. A weak spot in Earth's magnetic field, called the South Atlantic Anomaly, has been causing computers aboard the International Space Station to lock up. Sometimes called a Bermuda Triangle of space, this weak spot is a large expanse of reduced intensity in the Earth's magnetic field, hovering over South America and the South Atlantic Ocean, especially over Uruguay. While humans on the ground are safe from the effects of such an anomaly, the station computers and satellites in orbit around the Earth are not so lucky. When they pass through the anomaly, they are bombarded with high levels of radiation that ruin their components. Artificial clouds. NASA creates artificial clouds in experiment to study changes in Earth's atmosphere. The study would help to understand the impact of the growing number of satellites and rockets in space. NASA researchers created artificial clouds by launching a rocket into the upper atmosphere in order to study the changes it is subject to, the agency said Tuesday on its website. The clouds they created are specifically polar mesospheric clouds, which consist of swarms of ice crystals in the upper layers of the atmosphere and which capture sunlight in an unusual way. The experiment was conducted by launching the Super Soaker rocket, which incorporated a 220-liter water tank from a research camp in the Alaskan city of Fairbanks. When the rocket reached an altitude of approximately 85 kilometers, the tank was detonated, causing the liquid to be released. 18 seconds later, a ground-based laser radar detected a faint echo indicating the presence of a polar mesospheric cloud, the one generated by the operation. Based on the observations, the scientists created a model that simulates the development process of these clouds. The results suggested that the introduction of water led to a significant drop in temperature in that part of the atmosphere. The study related the results of the experiment to the current reality of space traffic, marked by the increase in the number of satellites and rockets, the launch of which generates water vapor. Launch postponed. SpaceX postponed at the last minute the launch of 60 new Starlink satellites. With this new batch, SpaceX will now have more than 1,200 Starlink satellites in low Earth orbit. SpaceX has decided to postpone the launch of another 60 Starlink communication satellites from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The launch of a reusable Falcon 9 rocket with the satellites on board was due to take place at 1:37 GMT on Monday. The next attempt to carry out the launch will be in 24 hours. The 60 Starlink satellites will join SpaceX fleet of more than 100 satellites already in low Earth orbit since launches began in 2018. With this new batch, SpaceX will now have more than 1,200 Starlink satellites in orbit. Blood Moon. When and where will the Blood Moon be observed this year? In 2021, there will be several celestial events not to be missed. Several versions of Blood Moon, a colloquial term describing a total lunar eclipse, will be visible this year. The phenomenon occurs when the Sun, the Earth, and the full Moon are aligned with each other, so the Moon enters the shadow of our planet. During the event, it turns reddish because of the leakage of light into the Earth's atmosphere, which is capable of scattering blue light and, at the same time, unable to scatter the red color. On Wednesday, May 26, a total lunar eclipse will occur, which could be observed in North America. The largest and brightest full moon on 2021, called Superflower Moon, will occur near its perigee, that is, at the moment when it is closest to the Earth in its monthly orbit. It will last 40 minutes from 11:11 to 11:25 UTC. Just 2 weeks later, on Thursday, June 10, there will be an annular partial solar eclipse, the so-called Ring of Fire, visible from northern Canada, Greenland, and eastern Russia. In the eastern US, it will take the form of a partial solar eclipse. A partial lunar eclipse will take place on Thursday, November 18. It will be visible in North and South America, Australia, parts of Europe, and Asia. This event, known as the Beaver Moon, will involve a particularly deep partial lunar eclipse, when 97% of the moon will enter the Earth's shadow. The duration of the phenomenon will be 3 hours and 30 minutes. 2 weeks later, on Saturday, December 4th, the alignment of the Sun, Moon, and Earth will even more precise, and a total solar eclipse will occur. However, it will only be visible from Antarctica. Digital dollar. US studies developing a digital dollar to contain China. Senior US financial officials unveiled plan to develop a digital dollar, calling it a high-priority project. The decision was made in the context of the rapid advances of the digital yuan, aimed at undermining the global supremacy of the dollar. Until now, the Fed was giving short shrift to suggestions that the global digital currency race has dangers for the dollar and thus also for US national security. This week, however, top government officials involved in international finance pointed to the advantages of a digital dollar. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen indicated the domestic good that the digital dollar could do for Americans. In quotes, "I think it makes sense for central banks to look at it," Yellen said, when commenting on an study that found some 70 countries already have digital currency projects. Trump back. Trump hints he may run for president in 2024. In quotes, "I may decide to beat them for a third time." The former president criticized his Democratic successor and called his first month in office the most disastrous of any president in modern history. In his first appearances leaving the White House almost 6 weeks ago, the former president suggested that he could run for president again in 2024, in addition to lambasting his successor. A poll cited by the New York Times showed that Trump retains the dominant support of the conservative wing of the party. 55% of respondents picked him as a possible Republican presidential candidate for 2024. 95% said they want the party to continue Trump's agenda and policies, regardless of whether he runs for president in 2024 or not. Military news. Syrian air defense repelled missiles over Damascus. Air defense system in Syria's capital responded to enemy shells over the city, report the state-run Sana news agency. According to the country's state television quoted by Reuters, it was a response to an Israeli attack on the outskirts of Damascus. According to Israeli broadcaster Khan, the attack is a response to an explosion on a ship provoked by Iran, and shared a video purportedly showing the moments of the airstrike. NATO Poseidon 21 military exercise begins in the Black Sea. The maneuvers, which will be completed next March 6, involve more than 600 military personnel from the US, Spain, France, Greece, Turkey, and Romania, as well as 11 warships, 9 military aircraft, and a pyrotechnic intervention truck, and a remote control underwater robot. NATO's international exercises dubbed Poseidon 21, began in the Black Sea with an opening ceremony held Saturday in the port of Romanian city of Constanta. The host country's naval forces reported and detailed that their main objective is to seek the optimal use of the Alliance's capabilities to strengthen its rapid reaction potential in the framework of continuous changes in the regional security environment. Conflict in Ethiopia leads to ethnic cleansing. It could be war crimes committed by fighters who entered the Tigray region in November 2020. An internal US government report obtained by the New York Times reveals that the Ethiopian army and allied militias are leading a systematic campaign of ethnic cleansing in Tigray, an ethnically divided region ravaged by internal conflict that has recently escalated. The document draft this February stipulates that fighters of Amhara origins who joined the army's military campaign last November are committing war crimes against the Tigrayans, another local ethnic group. In particular, this could include rape, looting, and massacres. Ceremonial Chariot discovered in Pompeii. Italian archaeologists found a four-wheeled ceremonial chariot in the suburban villa Civita Giuliana, north of Pompeii, in an excellent state of preservation. According to specialists, it's the first discovery of its kind in Italy. It's a large four-wheeled ceremonial chariot with its iron elements, bronze, and tin decorations, remains of mineralized wood, and traces of organic elements from ropes to the remains of plant decorations. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friend, and see you tomorrow.